Hey. Oh.
Hi, guys.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We are back. This is the second episode of the second series of the LNL podcast. Obviously, we did mention in our first episode that this is the career series. Yes, I know we have been quiet for some time, but obviously you do know that life does get busy, but we are here. You know, we are back and we are ready to unpack and talk and just unravel the topics of career. And obviously today we have two beautiful guests joining us. And our topic today is just how do you get hired? How do you position and present yourself to be selected for a job or opportunity? And also how do people that hire people like HR practitioners, how do they choose the right talent for the right job? And we have somebody who's an expert in that field who's going to be sharing more about that. But we also have somebody who's going to be telling us from the other side, of somebody who's been looking for work, their challenges, their struggles, and then we can all just have like a young advice kind of session where we can just help build and grow.
Yeah, and I think we all know, we all watch the news. We've seen that the unemployment rate has gone up to a high percentage. The youth on its own is sitting at around 62%, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's a really high percentage of unemployment. So that's why we felt at this current time, it's very relevant for us to speak to someone who hires people and to speak to someone who is part of the youth and who's going through a situation that many of us are going through right now, where they've been looking for a job and just things aren't working out. No matter how many times you apply, you're just not getting that job. So yeah, these two ladies are going to be very insightful, and hopefully they'll be able to give you any advice or just, speak to something that you can relate to.
Our next guest is Vanessa, and she's going to do an intro for herself. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, LNL and Dudu. My name is Vanessa. I work in people operations, which is what we call human resources. Always hated the idea that humans are resources. So I'm interested in people and jobs, and that's my world. I work in advertising at VMLY&R, South Africa.
Nice
Thank you so much, Vanessa,
for joining us.
Can Dudu introduce herself?
Yeah, no problem. My name is Dudu from Soweto, and I'm currently unemployed for almost 2 years now. I'm looking for a job, and it's very hard to get a job because of this pandemic. However, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep looking still.
So thank you so much, Dudu.
So I think to kick off the conversation, Dee, you can just give us a bit of a background of your career and how it's been going and how it's currently going.
Okay, I finished my matric in 2003, and ever since then, I've been working call center reception admin, and my last job was me being a call center agent. And I think I actually liked that because I was able to speak to different people, learn different languages. And yeah, I think most of it is that. However, with my age currently, I'm thinking me working at a call center, they hire mostly new people, younger people than me, who are more energetic than me.
Interesting. It's funny you say that, Dudu, because Vanessa, I actually would like to hear from you as a person who's responsible of, who's part of getting people and getting people and not resources, but getting people to join, the agency that you work with. I just wanted to ask, like, what do you look for? What is it that, because I know Dudu's mentioning that because of her age right now, she's recognizing that she can't go back to what she likes doing.
She's almost not attractive to the employer.
She's not attractive enough. How do I make myself attractive to an employer?
Yeah, well, I can't speak for all employers, obviously, but I can just speak for my little world. So what we look for is a couple of things. We hire a lot of people quite early in their career, but I do want to say in Dudu's case that I don't think there's anything standing in your way of being an early career person in another career, if you were to move into a new career, to position yourself as an entry-level person, regardless of age. And I'd like to think that ageism isn't a huge problem in South Africa. I don't know. But I think in this virtual world, we all think very differently about so many things. So I think you could position yourself as, someone entering a new career. So we do hire a lot of people at the beginning of their careers. And for me, that's a particular passion point. Because there you're not saying like, oh, I need 8 years of doing this or experience of working on the software, whatever, which, to be honest, a lot of research is coming out now saying that doesn't actually predict very much success. So we would then look for more underlying talent. So, for example, we've just been on a little mission to hire some people into one of our teams, and the key thing we're looking for there is the ability to learn. And I think in so many parts of industry at the moment, things are changing so rapidly that what you knew yesterday or what you learned, even if you went to the best university, what you learned there is already out of date the day your certificate is printed. Sorry. And so the ability to learn, take on new information, an excitement and a hunger for learning is something I'm very passionate about. So I'm looking for people who maybe they even learn just for fun, so people who say things like, oh, in my spare time, I taught myself this, or I've watched a whole lot of videos about creating content on YouTube and I started a little this, that, whatever, just that, like, I took something that I was interested in and I learned it, because we're in this age where everything is known. I mean, you can literally learn almost anything. You can probably learn how to do brain surgery. I wouldn't suggest it, but you can learn it on YouTube or somewhere. So there are infinite opportunities to learn, and I think that those people who are learning, who are doing things, kind of for themselves, that's such a like bright spot for me. That's like, ooh, this is a person who we could maybe help succeed, So that's very, that's very much something that I look for is, do people have the ability to learn, and are they just interested in stuff, Doesn't even need to be stuff that aligns with what we do. The other thing though is I do think that most companies want you to know a little bit about their world. Again, most of this stuff is super easy to learn. I mean, if it's a listed company, you can read the last 10 years of profit statements if you're into that. But all of us have websites, and all of us brag about who we are and have our leaders doing thought leadership pieces all over. So it's actually quite easy to learn a little bit about a company, so that I like when people apply to us that they would have put some thought into, like, so I see that at BML1R you have this, or you have a department that does customer experience, for example, and this is my interest, rather than just like, hey, I see you guys are an advertising agency, I want to go into advertising, because I don't really know what to do with that person, unfortunately. If they tell me like, I'm really interested in this, or I've always wanted to know more about copywriting or whatever, makes it much easier for me sitting behind my desk to go like, oh, okay, well, let's figure this out,
I think that goes to our next question about skills versus education. If someone is saying, I've studied, for myself example, I've studied communications, but I want to get into, another industry. You've gotten into that, but like, does skill take over education, or is that an old-fashioned thing to think about?
Well, I think we're moving away from this idea of, must have a 3-year degree and this and that. But I think something that's very difficult for employers is the ability to test that. So it's almost like if we were to say, we want someone with a BCom degree in this or whatever, it's kind of because that tells us a little something about the person. what's more difficult about skills, I can say to you, like, I'm skilled at this. As an employer, you're going to need a way to test that. I think that's something that is growing. And if you just look at the multitude of tools online available for exactly that, to test skills, I'm excited to see that this is growing, because obviously, and particularly in South Africa, there's a massive, there's massive discrimination in saying, oh, I want someone who did a 3-year degree, or I want someone who did a master's level. There's immediately so many people who just were never going to have that opportunity. So I think for us, it's actually incredibly important to move away from this sort of checkbox, this degree, this number of years of experience. So what? Can you do the thing? And we just need ways to figure out and to test and try, can you do the thing? I mean, sorry, I can probably go on about this for ages, but interviews are a terrible way of getting to know anything about anyone. So
thank you.
All it actually tells me is, are you good at being interviewed? Which is generally not part of someone's job, So generally in interviews, we end up either liking a person or not liking a person. And unless their job is to be liked, that doesn't really tell us much. So I think that as recruiters, there's a lot happening in the world of recruitment to say, how could we be better? Recruiting people is expensive. Hiring someone is an expensive thing for a company to do. How do we make fewer mistakes? How do we find new people? How do we bear in mind diversity while we do that? Because while we're putting, all of these old-fashioned things on a piece of paper, we're screening out a lot of possibly amazing talent.
I wanted to just touch on something that Vanessa had mentioned when she was talking to Dee about, and I think we touched on it in our first episode of the career series, that sometimes we are afraid to start all over again because of age or, what our background, what society says, and where we had imagined ourselves will be. But as you are a person who grows and changes every day, you read and start seeing other things, your passion points grow. You then grow. So I think it's important. Yeah. So I think it's also important for you, Dee, is that as much as I know you said you're passionate about people and you're afraid to go back because like maybe you're not young enough you're not fresh meat basically right now. But I still do believe that as much as we are still alive, as much as you're still able, there's an opportunity for you. So if it means starting all over again, so be it. So be it, because I still believe there's so many talented, great people out there where we are stuck on one role or one idea of our career because that's what we taught ourselves. That's what we studied. But as we grow and realize that opportunities are not as how they are, how do I then as myself adapt? How can my passion points help the me propel my job? Because some jobs will also require you to be as your personality over and above the skill, And I love the fact that Vanessa mentioned that she looks for people, and that, people can study interviews. I've interviewed people, and what I saw in the interview was like, damn, 100 stars, I'm sold. And what I got was underwhelming. And then now you have to question, did you lie on your CV?
I think it's because people have got it in their minds that this is, when you read the criteria or the requirements on a job spec, you already set your mind that, oh my God, I have to be this person. I can't go in there myself.
Lie.
So you basically lie, and you channel yourself into that direction that they want a robot. I'm going to be this kind of a robot, and you get in there and that you're going to get what you asked for, because that's what you said you want. And a person is scared that if I'm not this kind of a robot, I'm not going to be hired. And right now I want a job.
Speaking of which, Vanessa, how do you deal with that when you discover that? How does that? I know it does leave a very sour taste. I've experienced it where somebody is selling themselves, and sometimes I'm like, why can't I be that person where I can just so like I can get everything that I want, But what do you do when that happens? How do you deal with that matter?
Yeah, that's a really tough one. I think there's a fine line between, sort of putting your best foot forward, let me put it that way, or like outright lying. I definitely don't have a degree from Harvard. It doesn't matter. So, like actually putting down something on your CV that is not true is massively dangerous. It's an offense that will get people fired pretty much every single time. And that really is, and in many industries, I mean, we always say Joburg is such a small town, but many industries are really small. So just don't do that. But in terms of talking a good game or putting your best foot forward, I think that the responsibility also lies with the employer to check things out, just like, I mean, I always think of interviews like, we as a company are there telling you how great we are and how amazing it is to work for us. And you're there saying how amazing you are and how great you're going to be in the job. Like, of course, we both, we're on a first date. Of course, we're only saying good things about ourselves. But like employing someone is kind of like going from a first date straight into marriage. And so we also have to do our homework and go like, well, is this true? Can the person do the thing? And then we loop back to that, can we assess that the person can do the thing? Can we get references that the person has done the thing? But just something, Lindy, I wanted to touch on something you said, which was about you read the requirements of the role and you kind of already go, oh, whoa.
It's too much.
They're looking for Superman here. But there's really interesting research, and I can't remember where it comes from at the moment, but there's really, really interesting research about how men will very often, so let's say, I'm going to just use numbers, if they meet 40% of the requirements, they'll apply for the job, but women very often will not. And I think that's something really interesting, because we're almost going like, do I meet 80 or 90% of these requirements? Am I almost all the way there? Okay, now I've got license to apply for this. Whereas maybe our male counterparts with exactly the same experience, whatever skill that we have, are going, I'm going to go for it. I'm just, let's see how it goes. And I think that's something as women we need to think about, we're disadvantaging ourselves, because I think we are more likely to doubt ourselves and be concerned about what if we can't do it, or what if we fail or get rejected. So it's just something interesting to think about, is that maybe we actually also just need to be a bit more gutsy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking for a job right now, and I can't. You've literally hit the nail on the head. I've seen many jobs where I'm just like, I've got like 4 of the 6. So what's the point? Like I'm just barking up the wrong tree here,
And I'm telling you that the male counterparts are applying for that job, with the same number of ticks next to those requirements. So yeah, I think that is something that disadvantages women.
Wow,
but I also think we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves as women, because maybe it also comes from like history, where we come from, your experience of past places. I know, I have had, when I started in the events industry, and it took longer for me to be more confident about my work and myself and believe that I've got it, because I was made to believe that I don't have it, and over and above certain people that you can see that you don't got it. And you just work over and above, and it still seems like you don't have it. So also, even though I'm saying that, it also doesn't mean that should be our narrative. It shouldn't be our story. We should step up as much as the male counterparts are stepping up, because I know a lot of male people that I know that some actually study they get to learn the work on the go. Because now they realize I'm struggling here. At night, they go and study. They call their friends, hey, how do I do this? And they are learning as much as you learn from at school. But this time you're learning, it's your practicals, that's your life, that you're doing it every day. I think we need to also just like step up encourage. I'm always all about that. Let's break those boundaries, and let's show up. If it's 40, if I meet 40%, let me try. Maybe there's one word there, one skill there that I have.
Sorry.
No.
I agree that I think we should step up, but I also think that being honest and saying, you know, I really am your best bet for these things. Like, I have these in the bag. You can count on me for these things. These things I'm going to have to learn, and I'm really going to require your help. But here I've got a plan of how I do that. You know, that's amazing. Because I will also say that when you put a job spec together and you put an ad out, you know that there is no such person like this unicorn.
Thank you. I've been
there
wondering.
There isn't a person like that. So you're looking for as many of those things as possible. And hey, maybe they've got something amazing also in addition. Oh, but they don't have that thing. You're never going to find that actual person. So it's about selling what you have, what you don't have, and what your plan is there, and what you maybe have over and above.
Definitely.
Do they do recruiters read that? Like, if I had to tell my story and say, I'm Lindy. I went to Dublin, studied this. I just finished my thesis. I've done this. I used to work for this radio station, this TV station. I'm passionate about telling African stories. And although I don't have this experience, I'm willing to learn because I've got the skill of learning and growing. Do recruiters really read that?
So I can only, again, talk for me. So I know that in like big companies where they've got thousands of people applying, they have algorithms doing the work. And so, you know, you basically got to be an SEO copywriter to get past their algorithms and use, there's tons of articles online about like what words the algorithms prefer over other words, like, you know, achievements and all that stuff. But for a smaller entity like ours, we would engage with that. And you know, I think I just loved what you said there. I'm passionate about telling African stories, because I think like that, you know, if I were to open up our careers mailbox and see something that said application for X position, I'm passionate about telling African stories, like, I'm immediately excited to meet this person. It's not just like I have this and I got 4 distinctions, and that's all great, that's fantastic, but you've kind of summed up your brand almost. And so I think you can stand out with stuff like that.
Interesting.
So we're running out of time, guys. So I think our last question, Lingo, do you want to sort out our last question?
So for me, it's just that thank you so much, Vanessa, and thank you, Dudu, for coming, because your experience also, you know, informed a lot of the session, and so that Vanessa can also unpack and help. And also, Lindy, I'm sure you also got some guidance. And I just wanted to know, like, for other people that are going to be watching and that are out there that are like Double D, who've actually been looking for work. Obviously, the pandemic hit us hard, and how do you position yourself? What is the advice you have to give for young, especially like upcoming young talent? That would you know that the economy is a bit tricky, it's unstable. It's not the same as it was, in our past years. How do you advise a young millennial stepping out into the career world, how do you advise them to navigate finding a job or being employable?
That is so tough. And I think, for any advice that I can give, the economy is really, really tricky right now, and it's hard. So in prepping for this chat that we were going to have, I was thinking about this and thinking, one of the key things I think is to look after your mental health, and to really think about your resilience, because this is hard. This is a hard thing that you're trying to do. You're up against unknowable odds, trying to break into whatever industry or whatever field you're trying to go into. So I would say that's the first thing, is like figure out a way to check in with yourself, to look after yourself, to really check that you're okay through this whole thing, because it might not be a sprint, it might be a marathon. It might take a really long time. I mean, Dudu's just told us that she's been looking for work for a really long time, a protracted period of time. You got to be resilient to do that, so find ways, whatever. And there's so many great resources for building your resilience, but I would say that is one of the first things. Then one of the pieces of research that I read recently that I really loved talked about using weak ties rather than strong ties. So this is about connecting with your network. Okay, so some of us maybe have great networks and some maybe less so. Either way, we have a network. You went to school with people, you have aunties and uncles, you have family, friends, people. And there's this research that I read recently, which was about all the usual people that you might approach and say, your best friends or whoever, are usually not the people that you're going to, that are going to help connect you. It's people further away. So make a list of the people you think can help you find a job, and then challenge yourself to double that list, and then challenge yourself to double that list again. And maybe it is going to be your uncle's next door neighbor who was the principal of a school, who, you know what I mean? So it's going to be someone you didn't think of first time around, and you're going to reach out to that person. And there's a whole lot of reasons why it might be that weak ties are more likely to help us find a job than strong ties. But that's what the research said. So I found that very, very interesting. And I also think that people love to help people. It doesn't matter that I knew you in standard 8 and now we've been Facebook friends. People do actually want to help. Like, hi, Vanessa, I see you're in this. Is there any chance you could steer me in the right direction, because I'm looking to break into that kind of career? So I think, and I think that when people don't have the answer for you, to ask the follow-up question, do you know anyone who you could connect me with who might be able to help? Because then you're using, that bigger network, and then you're using their network. So I'd encourage you to try that. What else can I say? I guess be lateral. I think that a lot of us had ideas of where we would be, and you, Lingo, you actually spoke about that a little bit earlier, like, a sort of concept of where I'd be by the time I'm 25 or whatever it is. And that is so damaging, because I think a lot of those expectations come from maybe a reality that doesn't exist anymore in the economy, whatever. So to kind of let go of those a little bit, and be a bit more lateral. Maybe you studied journalism, and maybe there's this whole new emerging field of content creation and SEO copywriting, and actually a lot of the same skills are applicable there. So maybe there isn't a role in journalism, but maybe there's something sort of lateral that you could move into, and that you'd actually find you enjoy. So last thing, if I may, and I know we're running out of time, a foot in the door is a great thing. Like taking a job that is maybe not your ideal job at a company that's in your ideal industry, or that is your ideal company, I think is worthwhile. Because from there, it is often easier to be seen, to be recognized, to say, hey, what I really want to do is X, and to try to move there. So if you can get your foot in the door, I've seen so many people move from, whatever role, and up and down and across the business. And, when people see that they've got a good person and a good worker and someone,
they will,
then it's up to them to help you move in that direction. But a foot in the door is worth a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on this. I know that we're almost out of time. Thank you so much, Vanessa. I think I'm learning something from that, and I'm sure even Lindy and Dudu, and also our listeners are going to learn something from that, because I think it's really, these conversations are needed. We get to see articles on LinkedIn. We get to see 1 minute left. We get to see articles on LinkedIn, all these posts and quotes and motivational quotes, but we never really get to have the real conversations and be honest and real about like, how does it really work? And sometimes maybe it's me also being hard on myself, not trying to step up, maybe not being lateral enough, and not trying to understand that I can grow. If I'm in the company that I want to be in, I can grow into it. I can change. I can switch up the direction. I can go for things that look similar to what I've studied. Yeah. So I think this is really helpful. Thank you so much, Vanessa. And thank you so much. Yeah, it's been real. We're out of time.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me, and good luck, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think that was a very insightful conversation with Vanessa and Dee. Obviously, we got to see things from both sides, someone who has been looking for a job and someone who's employing people. So I think Vanessa has given us insight on how to be attractive, how you should go about job hunting and not just doing the whole job hunting that you've heard people doing the usual way.
Exactly. And what is also very important about that is that, like, check in with yourself, take care of your mental state. Don't make yourself feel depressed and whatnot. And I really appreciate the fact that sometimes you need to go and look, and that's why they say your network is your net worth, because that's where, and your weak ties will be probably the ones that will help you, but your weak ties come from your strong ties. You know, so I know Lindy knows uncle knows mama knows mama. Although it came through a long way, it came through my network, right? So let's look around who we have, how and how they can help us, but also the way you present and sell yourself is very important.
It's key, because
what I heard is that you can either say, hi, I wanna be this, I wanna be a camera woman for this company, or hi, I've got interest in telling stories and whatever. Although I'm not good in editing skills, however, I have to be honest about who you are, your passion. This whole thing of, hi, please find my attached CV. Look forward to your response. Do you know how many highs?
It's basically like the robot mentality.
Exactly. So let's sell yourself, sell who you are, and I think that could make a difference and change. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people learned a lot on today's episode, and thank you for listening and tuning in. And we look forward to your comments and feedback. Don't forget to subscribe and comment, like, click, share.
Yeah, guys, we'll definitely have another great episode for you guys with somebody else who's also going to share some great information that will give you guys all the info you need when it comes to your career. So we hope that you enjoyed it, and we can't wait to see you again. Cheersy!
Bye!